Hi, this is Abby with the Bead Place and beadplace.net, and today we're going to show you how to make a beautiful chain tassel necklace. So the tools that we'll need to make our tassel necklace are a chain nose pliers. It has a smooth flat surface to the inside. You'll need a round nose pliers to make our loops, and we will also need a cutter. I have 4 feet of chain. This is the chain that we're going to use to make the little swingy parts of the tassel. I have a chain to go around our neck. I have a cap, some interesting focal beads to hang our tassel from. I have 2 jump rings. I have some glue, and I have some wire. So what we're going to do to get started is we are going to start cutting our chain in half. So I'm going to double my chain and then cut at the half mark so that I now have 2 pieces of chain. I'm going to do that again with both of my pieces of chain. So fold this in half, cut at the half mark, and with my other piece I'm going to fold it in half and cut at the half mark. So now I have 4 pieces of chain. I'm going to do that one more time with each, and I will come back to you. I now have 8 pieces of chain that are twice as long as I would like my tassel dangles to be. You could cut these into the lengths of your exact desired tassel chains, but Becca, who is our incredibly lovely, genius, talented, hilarious coworker, she told me a really cool time-saving trick. If you just double it and go through the center of each of these pieces of chain with your wire rather than the top link of shorter pieces of the chain, it saves you a heck ton of time, and I appreciate that. So Becca's awesome. Everybody thank her for that tip. So I'm going to cut a piece of wire that's about, I would say, 8 inches long. So we're going to find the center of each of these. You don't have to be super precise. Kind of fold your wire up into a V shape like this. We're going to give our little tassel danglies a haircut later. So if some are longer than others, it's no big deal. Just eyeball the middle. Don't be too far off because we don't want to be wasteful and have really short ones that we'll have to cut completely off. But it's okay if they're not exactly centered. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just stringing through the center link or close to the center link of each of these chains. Now, normally with tassels, like if you were using a bead cap instead of just an end cap, like something that has a hole in it, you would do your regular closed wrap loop on this, bring the wire up through the hole in the cap, and then wire it onto whatever you're wiring on. But with this, we're going to show you kind of an easy cheater's way with glue. We have this really cool end cap here that we're going to just glue our little tassel dangle into. So we don't have to be really precise with these because it's just going to get glued to the inside. So essentially what I'm going to do is just cross the wire over like that. And then I'm going to kind of take one side and wrap it around the other side to secure it. And then I'm just going to kind of take both of my sides and kind of bulk the wire around the top of the chain just to kind of almost make a perfect little area to glue with. So we're making a pad almost for the glue. And just fit it in, make sure it still fits in the cap. And just wire around until you don't have any more wire. And again, it doesn't have to be precise or pristine because it's going to get covered up by the cap. So check that out, guys. Messiest wire wrap I've ever done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to load the cavity of the end cap with glue. You can use kind of whatever kind of glue you have at home. If you want instant gratification, like wear it tonight, you could use a jeweler's super glue like Specialty. I am using E6000. It is an industrial strength adhesive that we really, really like. So I just squeezed about a little bit, that much in there. And always remember to put the lid back on anytime you have foil tubes like this, because the glue will just keep oozing out if you don't. So I'm just gonna make sure that I have everything the way I want it. Grab carefully like this so that we don't have any of the ends up at the top when we glue it in. And just gently and slowly push your tassel chains into the cap. Make sure to push it all the way in. This is kind of the tricky part. Just load it in, gently kind of twist it if you need to push it all the way in so that this glue kind of penetrates the wire wrap on the inside and kind of gets into some of those chain links. Then what I like to do to kind of spread the chain out a little bit so it looks a little bit more full than it actually is I like to kind of spread out the links like this. So you see how I've kind of sprayed the links out around the end cap? Then what I'll do is just kind of poke my finger on the inside. If you're afraid to get glue on your fingers, use a Q-tip, use a popsicle stick, something like a straw. And basically we're just kind of pressing the chain out to the outside of the cap, and that's going to make it look a little bit more full rather than just a stream of chain hanging from the middle of the cap. And so you can let it dry like that. You want to let it dry if you're using an epoxy glue, probably about a half hour before you continue to work with it, and maybe 24 hours before you wear it. An instant glue, obviously let it dry completely and then you can wear it. But just follow the directions on the glue that you have. So I'm going to let it sit like this, and then I'll show you how to assemble all the other parts and pieces. So I have cut another approximate 8-inch piece of wire. This is 24 gauge wire that I'm working with. And what I'm going to do is take my chain nose pliers. I'm going to grab, I would say a little bit higher than halfway down the wire, and I'm going to bend the wire into a right angle. Well, that's kind of a right angle. But you see how it's a corner like this? Now what I'm going to do is take my round nose pliers, and I'm going to hold the round nose pliers like this so that the noses are on top of one another rather than side by side. So on top of one another, and I'm going to grab right in that bend. So like this. I'm going to push the wire up around the top and down, so around the top of the round nose pliers and down, so that it looks like this. So now I'm going to put the bottom nose back in, swing the tail end around, and then I'm going to take the tail end and coil it around the longer wire, coiling it towards the end of the longer wire. And what this does is it kind of closes this loop that we're making. So this is called a closed or a wrapped loop, or a closed wrap loop. Make sure to coil at least 2 to 3 times, and that will make it secure. So I'm going to trim the tail end. Always make sure to cover what you're cutting or grab the tail end so you don't have the piece flying anywhere that could hit anybody in the face or land on the floor for you to step on later. So make any adjustments that you need to make. Sometimes I like to put it back on the round nose pliers and round it out a little, or kind of bend it in whatever angle I need to bend it to make it look okay. Then what we're going to do is we are going to load on your decorative pieces. So basically what we're doing is we're making a really cool centerpiece or a link for our necklace. So these are like the focal beads that are going to hang on top of the tassel. So I'm going to do it this way because the chain is dark. I want this bright, fun crystal in the middle, and then our darker, more dimensional crystal at the top. So now that I have our beads strung on, what I'm going to do is the exact same thing at the top. So take my chain nose pliers, grab directly on top of the beads using the very tip of the chain nose pliers. You don't want to bend it with it in the pliers farther back towards your hand, because that's going to leave a big space that you're going to have to coil with wire. So keep it towards the tip, bend it into a right angle, switch to your round nose pliers, put them right in that bend there. keeping it fairly close to the tip to make a small loop. We're going to bend the wire up around the top and down. So this is what we have so far. Put the bottom nose of the round nose pliers back in. That way we have room to swing the tail end around the bottom. So swing the tail end around the bottom. Coil, coil, coil. And whenever that space is filled, you can stop. Trim the tail end off. Tuck it with the pliers if you need to. Make any corrections in the angle that you need to make. And you have a really cool centerpiece. So make sure that your little loops are hanging in the correct direction. I just kind of grab them and straighten them out a little bit if they're at an angle. Then what I'm going to do is grab a jump ring, and I'm going to use this jump ring to attach it into the chain. I'm going to wait a little bit before I do that to make sure that my tassel is completely dry before I assemble it all together, but I'll come back and show you how. Hey, okay, I'm back, and we are dry or almost dry and ready to assemble. So now is the time where you might want to give your tassel a little bit of a haircut if you feel the need. I like the little bit of differences at the ends, but you can use your flush cutter to cut straight across if you'd like. What I'm going to do is use my chain nose pliers that I have here. I have two. You can use a chain and a flat nose if you want. Anything with a flat surface to open our jump ring. Now, if you have been watching my videos for a while, you know what I'm about to say. Anytime you open and close a jump ring, you want to make sure you're opening it like this and never like this. So that is the way I just opened this ring. So it's opened in this direction. I'm going to slide that into the tassel topper and then slide it into the link. So when you go to close your jump ring, since we've opened it in the proper direction, when we go to close it, it's going to be a heck ton easier to get it closed all the way. Make sure when you're closing it that you check from the top as well. Look at it this way. Look at it that way to make sure that it's not going to snag on anything, that it's closed perfectly, perfectly, perfectly shut so that there are no breaks. So now we have our beaded tassel. We're going to use another jump ring to attach it onto our ball chain. So I'll give you a better look at how we open and close the jump ring here. I have the break of the jump ring at 12 o'clock. One of my pliers is straight up and down. Another one is off to the side. And I open it like that. That's what works best for me. As long as you're opening it in this direction and never this direction, you should be just fine. It's just an angles game to open and close jump rings properly. So I've slid the top loop of my link in. I'm going to slide that into my chain and close it. And double check from the top to make sure we don't have a break and make sure we're perfectly shut. And now we have an awesome tassel necklace. So thanks for watching. I hope you make a ton of tassel jewelry since they're really popular right now. And you can make them look so different just depending on what chains you use, what fibers you use, what accent beads you use. And we have all the materials that we use today plus a ton more at beadplace.net. If you just really like this and want to make this exact necklace, just click the link in the description box below to find the kit. I'll also link the glue and the tools that we used. And then if you enjoy watching our videos and want to support us, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and like us on Facebook. Thanks. Have a good one.